This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm getting ready to head to the ranch, so I got my camouflage hat on. So if you can't see the top of my head, it's because it's camouflaged. I'm just kidding. And I'm here with Todd Smith today. He's out of Columbus, Ohio. This he's no stranger to real estate. He's gonna give away a free course on how to buy, sell, rent, and basically make money and create a real estate without any money or without any of your own money, if you know how that goes. So with no further ado, how are you doing, Todd?
I'm doing fantastic, and thanks for the opportunity to be on the show today.
Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. Can you give us a little bit about your background, the bullet points, because I really want to get to the good stuff. So don't run us all the way down the trail, but give us the highlights.
Gotcha.
I
understand. Yeah, basically I got started. I didn't know anything about real estate, no prior experience. I was literally a broke sophomore in college when I bought my first investment property. I bought my first investment property before I bought my first home to live in. And, since then I bought over 100 houses, never using any of my own money. And I've taught tens of thousands of other people how to buy houses without cash or credit.
Okay, so that's pretty impressive. How old are you, may I ask?
I'm a lot older than what I look, so I don't like to say that publicly, man, because I'm not married yet.
May I ask? You can say no. I say, okay, well, he looks about 25 to me. On the other hand, I'm 58. The only reason.
Let me say that most of the girls I date are in their 20s.
I got it now. Okay, so maybe let me rephrase this. So how long have you been doing business?
Oh man, I've been doing it over 20 years. So as I always say, obviously I started in kindergarten.
Yeah, so I'm doing the math right now. Sophomore in college, 20 years, never mind. A little detective work. We become detectives when we're in the house business because
that's right.
There are a lot of things out. We have to find people. We have to put two and two together. Figure out.
That's right.
What's really going on. So tell me about. You say with none of your own money, which is probably one of the biggest keys to real estate ever in the world, because if you had to start with your own money, no one would have ever got started, because everyone I know was started broke, right? Did you know
right.
People that started rich? Because I don't.
No, I don't.
Yeah, right. And the ones that started rich ended up going broke and then had to figure it out for being broke. So
that's right. That's right.
So this first deal, just describe your first deal. I always
my first deal I found through a realtor. And it was a creative financing deal, which it had to be because I was broke. And actually, my first deal, my plan was to buy it on land contract, to sell it on land contract. And I got the down payment from my Visa card, because they send college students all these applications for credit cards in the mail. And unlike most students, I never used my credit cards for consumer purchases. I started collecting credit cards to use to buy property.
We have a lot in common, Todd. I bought my first 100 houses on credit cards 24 years ago, starting out, because no one would give me. And back in the day, don't know how old you are, but back in the day when I was writing on stone tablets, you had good credit. Every credit card company in the world would send you one, and they all had $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cash advance limits, right?
Exactly.
And no one was regulating the fact that maybe you might get $400,000 to $600,000 on your kitchen table and go to Mexico, which some people did. Obviously, you didn't. I didn't. Because you and I don't want to live that way, right? But
exactly.
Some people did, and then they started adjusting people's credit scores based on how much cash availability they had non-secured. And then we got to a new credit scoring. But I would buy, like, here's 10,000 on this card and 10,000 on this card would buy a house. And here's 10,000 I need for the rehab. And I would glue those credit cards into the phone, because you couldn't commingle them or you'd get all jacked up.
Exactly. I've done that many times. That's right.
Yeah, so I like this. So thinking out of the box, doing what you have to do to get the first deal. How much money did you make on that first deal?
And that's a great question, because the first deal I didn't make a dime. And that's important for your audience to know, because, they might think that guys like me and you just go out here and everything works for us, but that didn't happen at all. And honestly, I tell people in my seminars, I've said, man, thank God I didn't get discouraged on that first deal. Thank God I didn't get discouraged on that first.
Thank God you didn't get discouraged, and thank God you didn't make 100,000 on the first one, because I've seen a lot of people get lucky and hit it really big on the first one and just screws them up horrible. They think everything's
interesting,
and they'll lose it over the next 5 deals because they think they're got some kind of gift that they don't have. So,
interesting.
Tell us about, you have a 90-minute free online course. You can go to reinvestorsummit.com/T Smith. That's T as in Todd, Smith, SMITH. And you got a free 90-minute online training. It's basically how to buy, sell, rent, or whatever with little to no money out of your pocket, and make some money in creative real estate investing, right?
That's correct. Yeah, basically how to buy, sell, and rent houses without cash or credit.
And so one thing we were talking before the show, and you're like what I like to call a house whisperer. You like to lean your ear up into the house, to the side of the house or the back door or the chimney, and you let the house tell you, I need to be wholesaled, or take me subject to, baby, take me subject to,
exactly.
or seller finance me. These houses can talk, right? If you learn to listen, they'll tell you what to do.
Right. That's right. I like that term.
So he, we were talking before the show, and he'll make money anyway the house wants it. Will let him make money the easiest way. You can wholesale it, you can lease option, he can get it sub 2, he can sell or finance it, he can wrap it. This man, he don't really care how he makes money, just as long as it makes money. What's your favorite one? What's your favorite one? Wholesaling.
I don't have a favorite one, because as one of my old school mentors said, I'm only in it for the money. So
I thought you were going to say my favorite one was the last one I got a check from.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, so you kind of touched on the 4 things actually that I do cover in the free training, and I use real deals with examples, and they'll get to hear me talking to sellers and everything in the free training. But yeah, wholesaling, lease options, taking over payments subject to, and then the last one, seller financing. Those are my 4 favorite methods. So
when you say seller financing, though, let's be clear. I have a book called, The Art of Owner Financing, but
okay.
I might have needed to be a little more specific, because people sometimes ask me, are you talking about the seller owner financing you, or are you talking about you owner financing your buyer? So which one is this seller financing? Is it seller financing you, or are you seller financing your buyer?
Well, actually, I cover both. I cover both, as I'm sure you're well acquainted with. So we can get the seller, instead of us having to go to the bank, which bank is a 4-letter word. To me, it's kind of like a cuss word. So instead of us going to the bank to get money, we convince or ask the seller to finance us and set up a payment plan with the seller. And once we do that, we're free to set up a payment plan with our buyer to make it easier for somebody else to buy. So as you know, Mitch, we're not in the business of taking advantage of people. We're in the business of giving people the best solution that works for them, and also gives us, it's got to be win-win for us and the seller.
It's usually the best solution that works to them given their limitations, because
exactly.
Because if they had a 850 credit score, they could go do a lot of things on a different level. You know what I mean? But
right.
Like in my business, I charge 10%, 30 years fixed.
Okay.
I don't know anything. Some short-sighted people will go, well, you're ripping these people off because, you can get it, mortgage rates are 4.5% or 5% or whatever, or, you know what I mean? Right. And I think, yeah, well, you're just assuming that they have that kind of job reputation, and although they can fill in all those blanks and get that loan, right. People will never get that loan. So the next best thing is, do you want to rent with a fixed payment with a payment that's going to go up every year for the rest of your life? Or do you want to get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage and have the appreciation and the pride and the ability to make improvements and force appreciation? You know, it's an easy answer to the solution, but shallow people, or people that are not, I say shallow people who don't understand the business very well, don't understand it. The solutions are different for different people.
Right, and that's a good point, especially for your audience, because and that's really why they need the knowledge that we're sharing to get into real estate investing, because renting is really an infinite interest rate. No matter how much, no matter if you could pay on that rent for 1,000 years and you'll never own that house or that apartment.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I like to say though, I took the long way, but that's why I love doing these podcasts, because I learn things from people every day. People think that I'm doing the podcast to bestow my knowledge upon them. Hell, I'm getting to interview like a smart person 3 times a week, for the last 5 years. Believe me, it's great to have a podcast. I usually tell people, like, the realtors are usually like, if a buyer comes in with a realtor, they tell me I'm ripping them off because, I'm charging 10%. I go, look, I'm not ripping them off. The landlord's ripping them off. What will the rent be 5 years from now? What will the rent be 10 years from now? And they kind of hem-haw. I said, no, give me a number. I need a number from you, and then I go 15 years and 20 years. And then they start hem-hawing around. I said, no, give me a number. What do you think the least amount of rent will be in 20 years on this house? Because over here, my 10% is still the same. It's the same.
Right.
Fixed, so. And then at the end of the day, what will the rent be in 30 years? And then you just say, this guy's just went to zero. He's done. So.
Hey, Mitch, if you'll allow me, I got five steps of financial freedom that I want to share with your audience in real estate investing.
Let's do a little cut right here because you broke up.
Okay.
5, 4, 3. All right, Todd. So let's do this. You have some tips to get to financial freedom. Let's talk about that. How was it? 5 tips, right?
Okay, yeah, I got 5. Yep, 5 steps of financial freedom with real estate investing that I want to share with your audience. And if they're taking notes, they can write down this acronym: ED. E as in Edward, D as in dog, D as in dog, I as in ice, and M as in money. EDDIM formula. And that E stands for education. So if you want to get to financial freedom in real estate investing, as Mitch and I have done, you need to get the right specialized knowledge. Nothing beats education. But then after you get educated, you actually have to, you need to go to the D in that formula, which is domination. And by domination, I mean that you have to practice. And I got a little saying that I developed: private practice produces pristine public performance. Let me say that again. Private practice produces pristine public performance. So what I mean by that is people like Mitch and I have talked to thousands of sellers, so we know what they're going to say before they say it, and we can give you scripts to handle that. But if you don't practice those scripts and you think, oh yeah, I'm just going to read this through, that's almost the same thing as winging it. So Mitch and I, we know exactly what we're going to say before we even get on the phone call or before we get in person with the seller. So that's what the domination part of it. You have to practice it on your own before you go out into the field. All right. So then let's talk about the next D in that formula: documentation. You got to have the right documents, and getting documents from people like me and Mitch. We've been out in the field. We've tested our documents. They've been court tested and battle and field tested. And they're going to be way better than any documents you can get from an attorney, because, as I always say in my seminars, you got to pay an attorney by the hour. He can give you crap documents, but you just paid him $300 per hour for the 5 hours that it took him to go on a Word and print that document out in 5 minutes. But you paid him for 5 hours and $300 an hour. And his document's may or may not work for you because it's not field tested, because they don't buy and sell and rent houses for a living like people like me and Mitch do. The next thing in that formula is implementation. You have to take action. If you don't take action, you're just going to be a professional seminar junkie. And I'm sure everybody out there knows a professional seminar junkie. They bought this course and that course and this course and that course, and half the courses they bought are still in the plastic wrapping, sitting on the shelf getting dust.
And they still haven't bought a house.
And still haven't bought a house. Exactly. Or maybe you've been doing this for 20 years and you've only bought 2 houses and you haven't bought any more because of whatever, fear crept in or whatever. And the last thing I want to say in the last point in that is modification. So after you've got the right education, you've practiced all your scripts, you've got the right documentation, and then you went out and started taking action. The reality is that you're going to make error. You're going to make you need to make adjustments. That's what I mean by modification. You got to make adjustments based on the trial and error that you experience out in the field. Because no matter how much knowledge you gain from me and Mitch, you're going to make errors because maybe you didn't understand exactly what we said, or you interjected your own flavor into it, and that didn't work. So you're going to make adjustments, and that's how everybody has to succeed, is by doing these 5 steps.
That's very good. So education, domination, documents, implementation, and modification.
Yes, sir.
And I couldn't have put it better because I think one of the keys there, they're all important, but the education part, man, how do you talk to people about mentors? It's kind of tricky because you're in the mentor business. So it's not, right off the bat, people think you're trying to sell yourself. That's not the case. I don't think Todd care who you pick. If we don't suit you, get somebody.
Right.
It's ruthless. It'll take all your money. If you're going to learn, it'll take everything. So how do you talk to people about mentors?
I mean, definitely it's needed. I had mentors, and I once paid a guy $5,000 to spend 8 hours with me. So I definitely believe in mentors. Everybody just go ahead.
Was it worth it? You paid $5,000 for 8 hours?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely some of the best money I've ever spent. I've never regretted a dime that I've spent on my real estate education, and definitely I've made. Yep. Go ahead, Mitch.
Go ahead. I was waiting for you to finish. Definitely, you've made some mistakes.
And my background, Mitch, I don't know if you know, but my background is electrical engineering. So basically, my plan was to work in corporate America for 5 years and then retire and just focus on my real estate business, which I started in college. And fortunately, I was blessed that things worked out that way. And I made, millions of dollars in real estate investing. I never made millions of dollars as an engineer. I could have made $1 million as an engineer, but it would have taken a lot longer than it did doing it in real estate.
So what do you say to people out there that spent some money on a program and they don't feel like they got what they wanted? They don't
the truth
got their money's worth.
Yeah, the truth is 9 times out of 10 when that happens is because they didn't implement it. So people, I believe that, and they didn't follow the 5 steps that I just outlined. So the truth is, if you got a program that didn't work, you probably just didn't implement it. And the truth is, there's a lot of courses out there with gaps. And sometimes, you need somebody to hold your hand, and that's when maybe it's time to look at paying for a mentor.
But that's where the modification comes in. If it's not quite what it's modify, hire someone to fill in that specific gap. They got
Exactly.
but they didn't teach me how to write a contract. I need someone to teach me. Just pay for that little piece. Get what you need, because nothing's a waste of your time if you're studying it, and the guy's not a complete yahoo that sold you a course. Most of it, something going on. The other thing is maybe they didn't do enough research to see if what they thought they were going to get is what they're going to get.
Right. True.
I had a person buy my book one time, says, this thing doesn't teach you how to buy real estate. And I said, where does it say that? It says, My Life in 1,000 Houses, The Art of Failing Forward. Where does it say? Where did it ever say that I was going to teach anything? Take us a little further. Talk to us about some of your growing pains. I'm going to guess you started out as a one-man show.
Yeah, definitely started out as a one-man show.
Are you a one-man show now?
No. So there was a time that I had about four assistants, and I had yeah, I had a couple assistants. I had a bookkeeper. I had about 4 or 5 people working for me. And then my main bookkeeper started stealing from me. So everybody got fired. But, I've been doing this for a while, and things are kind of like you, kind of on autopilot, which is why I have time to be on your program today. So basically right now I operate with one part-time assistant. So she does pretty much all my stuff, and everything's pretty much on autopilot.
That person in town or virtual?
Kind of both. So they're in town, but I travel a lot. So I spend, a good portion of my time traveling now. So then that's when she becomes virtual.
I see. Well, it's a new world that we live in, and a lot of things are possible that weren't even possible 10 years ago. You know what I mean? So
right.
um,
So to say it differently, I'm virtual, but she's not.
you're the virtual boss. And
right, exactly.
Assistant. That's funny. That's the table's turn. Never thought of it that way. So, do you have lots of people that you mentor in your hometown, or do you mentor people across the nation? I guess probably.
Yeah, so I mentor people across the nation. I've had students from Miami to Seattle. So yeah, pretty much across the nation. Yeah.
What does your perfect student look like? What's their profile?
My perfect student, honestly, is somebody who is who's willing to learn, who dedicates time and necessary time, and doesn't make excuses, and preferably is not computer challenged. So most of my students are computer challenged, and it's tough to deal with. But hey, I try to tell them, I don't want to waste time, telling you how to use Microsoft Word and Excel. I want to spend my time teaching you how to create money, how to turn houses into gold, and how to put more money in your bank account.
What's your favorite? What do you seem to do the most of out of the wholesale, lease options, sub two, and seller financing? Which one do you seem to which strategy do you use the most?
Honestly, so I would say probably wholesaling, maybe 50%, and then the other strategies make up the other 50%. And that's mainly because a lot of and it's a good question, because you can use the strategies to bounce off of each other. So basically, my job is to present the seller with all of their possible solutions that I'm going to offer them. Just like when they walk into a restaurant, the restaurant gives them a menu. I'm going to give them a menu, and then they pick what they want. Okay, do you want me to wholesale your house? And then, do you want you want a lower price for cash? And they say, oh no, that price is too low. And I say, you know what, seller, if I was you, I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't take a low price like that either. Let me offer you a higher price on a lease option or a subject to or seller financing. And they say, oh no, I want cash. Okay, well, you know what, if I was you, I wouldn't take those funky deals either. Let's go back to that wholesaling offer.
There you go. Do you do a lot of repairs?
No, I used to. I don't anymore.
You modified. You use it, you don't. Why?
Right, because honestly, the hardest part to me, and I know that house flipping has been glorified and all this HD TV and stuff, and that's great. I like that that's glorified, because I can show people a better way. I just don't, and that's, I've made a lot of money rehabbing houses. First of all, I'm not handy. I'm an engineer. I make plans and decisions. I don't physically do manual labor. But I've worked with a lot of contractors, and honestly, Mitch, I've found that that's the hardest part of this business, is working with contractors.
Well, that's where all the risk is too.
Exactly. So that's been, to me, working with contractors is the hardest part of the business. And there's great contractors out there. Don't get that twisted. And I've made a ton of money working with contractors, but I prefer not to. I want to get in, get out, get paid as fast as possible.
Yeah, time is money, right? Time
is money, and time is life. More important than money. Time is life, because when you don't have any more time, you're done.
Yeah, and so I think what you're saying is you need to think about what you want to do with your time. Do you want to spend it chasing contractors and taking 45 days to finish a job, or would you like to just buy a house and put it up for sale? And
right.
less things to delegate, a lot less things to go wrong. It's easier to get kind of automated if you cut certain things out, right?
Right. I'd much more prefer to make, $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 in a couple weeks or a few days, couple hours, couple weeks than I would fooling with contractors for 45 days to make 40 or 50 grand.
Worst deal, best deal. Start out with your worst deal. What was your biggest nightmare in this creative real estate business?
So that's interesting. My worst deal was a property that actually I was involved in a precedent-setting case because I had a lease option this property for just say 200 grand, and the property should have been worth based on what the appraisal said 400 grand. So I spent 40 grand rehabbing this house that I didn't own, and with the intentions of selling it for 400 grand. And then when I put it on the market, it was only worth 200 grand. What I had a lease option for. And that was because the house had what we call functional obsolescence. It was built by it was modified and built by a bachelor who had no concept of family living. So that's why, even though it was in this neighborhood of these, multi-million-dollar houses, nobody wanted it. So what happened was the appraiser appraised the house he appraised it wrong. So I actually won a precedent-setting case where we sued the appraiser, and I won that lawsuit, but I didn't make a dime on the house. That was my worst deal.
Okay,
spending
so
40 grand.
the case was basically that, I paid this professional to give me a value so
Correct.
that I would not be wrong on my calculations.
Correct.
And I was wrong on my calculations because this guy didn't come out and really they must have just plugged in the numbers and were going shotgun and didn't come out and look. The house is functionally obsolete. It didn't.
Correct.
For today's families. And I don't even know. That's not really functional obsolescence. I think that's just built stupid.
Right. So
you can have a 4,000 square foot house and based on the average sales price in the neighborhood, come up with a number. But if that house is just all out of whack and doesn't flow and has low ceilings and, or whatever,
right,
you're going to miss the number, right?
Right. So my best deals are too complex to explain. So I'll explain one of my best deals. But my best deals would be the properties that I bought with seller financing or subject to and kept long term, because the value of of basically holding financing, and I mean, it just, you can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on one house, over the lifetime.
The money's
What's that?
The money's in the finance.
Exactly. The money's in the financing, and what's been glorified is this, wholesaling and house flipping and all that stuff and quick cash. That's what's glorified. But what allows people like you and me to travel and go on vacation and set up all our payments on auto pay and all that stuff, that is these financing deals. But anyway, just a quick one of the deals I talk about in the free training is one of my students and I, we made 40 grand in 49 days on a house, and our competition was a billionaire investor that was also interested in that same house. So I'll just give a little teaser on that, and they can find out more about that in the free training.
All right, so you go to REInvestorSummit.com/T as in Todd Smith, and you're going to get your free 90-minute online training. He's covering a lot of material on that, but to be more specific, talking about wholesaling, lease options, subject to, and seller financing. Man, I want to thank you for taking the time to be on with me, Todd.
Oh, thanks, man. It was a pleasure, man. It was a real pleasure.
Any last words you want to say to maybe that person who's trapped in a job they hate and they're contemplating going out into this business, creative real estate investing?
Yeah, number one, real estate is the best business investment in the world. Everybody has to live somewhere. Even dead people have to live somewhere. Dead people live in a cemetery. A cemetery is real estate. That's number one. And number two is you can do it. Mitch and I aren't geniuses. necessarily. And I don't know. I'm just judging by the hat. I'm guessing. But
I'm the first one to tell you that I'm not smart. I didn't do all that well in school, and I have a high school education. But I had a whole lot of common sense. I have an aversion to pain, and I'm drawn to pleasure. I just go in that theme, full speed, 100% all day long, and you know.
Yeah, anybody can do this. You can do this, and it doesn't take money or credit. You just need the right knowledge. I don't care if you've been bankrupt or whatever. You can do this. You just need the right knowledge and the belief in yourself, because millions of people have done it before you, and there's no reason why you can't do it too.
When you're broke, you trade time and expertise in lieu of writing checks. So
exactly.
that's what you do. So here you are trying to get some expertise. You're in the right place. Stay with us, man. All right, this is Mitch Stephen, Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'd like to thank Todd Smith for stopping by. You guys check out taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a tax deferred or tax-free retirement plan with checkbook control, then check out the 37 little video vignettes at taxfreefuture.com and find out about this amazing tool that you're missing out of your tool belt. You won't believe what your financial advisors aren't telling you. We're going to tell you what they're not telling you. We're going to tell you why they're not telling you. It'll all make perfect sense, and you will be a better, there'll be a brighter future out there for you. So taxfreefuture.com. Thank you very much, and we're out of here. See you later, Todd.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.